Good afternoon, everybody. You're welcome to Bootcamp 5.0 with First Asset Management. We're going to give our joiners some more time to join us, but while we do that, my name is Gbonju Fakeye. I head strategy at First Asset Management, and I will be your host this lovely afternoon. You are very welcome to join us. Thank you for taking the time out to be a part of this webinar. It's the fifth in our Smart Investors campaign. And we're looking forward to just sharing our insights. It's a very topical issue in terms of investing in diaspora. And all the time when I share our flyers about events that are coming up, I get questions from my friends in diaspora, family in diaspora. Gbonju, how do we get involved? I don't understand. This is for you. Involve me, people. This is for you. So if you know that there's somebody that should be here that is not here, share the link. Let them register because it's going to be a very engaging conversation. So before we get into it, like I said, I'm just waiting for a few more people to join. I haven't reached my target yet. So tell your friends and family to join, please. I have a target before we start this webinar, but I won't waste your time. Let me give you a brief on the Smart Investors campaign. We are targeting 100 million smart investors at First Asset Management, and it's really a national call for anyone who is interested in investing, anybody who hasn't been exposed to investing before. This is an opportunity for you to hear about investing from a reliable source, a registered source. And it's really about us pushing content, whether it's through our webinars, through our podcasts, our social media, storytelling, just to get people more familiar with investments and to do so safely. So, like I said, it's for everybody. Nobody's excluded. You can be Gen Z, you can be Gen Alpha, you can be a baby boomer, you can be a millennial. No one is excluded. So please involve your friends and family, share the link. It's not too late to join the conversation and be a part of our 100 million smart investors campaign. We are First Asset Management, and we are happy to have you on this journey with us. So today, what are we discussing? We're diving into a topic that many investors, especially the ones that have jackpot, the ones living in diaspora, second generation diasporans, they always want to know about diaspora investing and what it means for them and how they can get involved. Many people want to invest back home, but just don't know how to get started. You have a conversation with a friend and it tails off. So let's get into it. And I have a very exciting panel for you this afternoon. Experts from within our business, but also an expert from outside of our business, because we're all about partnerships. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves so you know the quality of experts that we have on the call, and then we can get right into the discussion and the conversation. I'm going to start with our guest, that's Dr. Terab from NiDCOM. Dr. Terab, please, could you introduce yourself and let our guests know who you are, and then we'll move on to our colleagues internally. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gbonju. My name is Dr. AbdulRahman Terab. I am the Head Technology Transfer, Innovation and Investment for Nigerians in the Diaspora Commission. And I'm glad to be here with you this afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, sir. We're happy to have you with us, and thank you for taking the time out. I'll move on to my colleagues internally, and I'll start with Anne Oragwu. So Anne, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone, and thanks, Gbonju. My name is Oragwu, as she said, and I head the investments advisory team here at First Asset Management. It's my utter pleasure to be with you today. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anne. Ife, over to you.
I'm smiling, so infectious. I hope I'll be able to smile like that. But yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. As you've called me, my name is Ifeoluwa Dixon. I head the fixed income solutions at First Asset Management. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, thank you, Ife. And last but not least, the other male on the panel is Gbolahan Ologunro. Gbolahan, over to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Gbolahan Ologunro. I work as the portfolio manager at First Asset Management. I'm excited to be part of this session today.
Fantastic. So I told you we have experts on the call, so we're going to get right into it. But before we do, a few housekeeping rules, please, so that this can go as smoothly and as quickly as possible. First of all, the session is being recorded, so bear that in mind. Please use the Q&A box. It's right there at the bottom of your screen for your questions. You're also welcome to engage with us with the chat. and reactions. We love reactions. That lets us know how the conversation is going for you as well as for us. So please make use of that as well. So we're going to get into the conversation now, and I'd like to kick off with Anne. So Anne, let's get into this. First of all, I mean, we chose this topic, and it's a topical time because obviously 30 December, a lot of people are visiting home, a lot of people abroad are wishing they were home, some people have jackpot and all the rest of it. But why is this an important topic? Why is this something that we need to give some time to this afternoon to really get into?
That's an excellent question to begin with. And I'd start with something that I discovered a while back and was really, really, really mind-blowing to me when I realized that the remittances from the diaspora, Nigerians in the diaspora, have for quite a number of years exceeded our oil revenue. And so it shows for everyone in the diaspora that's joined this meeting, it just shows how important you are to the entire economy of Nigeria. And so, having this conversation, speaking to this key stakeholder for the entire country, well beyond first asset management, is very important at this point in time. Another thing that I'd say has made this very critical is the fact that this diaspora community has been able to give us sort of like steady foreign inflows, which sets a basis for even more portfolio investment from outside of the country. And data has shown that in years where Nigeria is having like low oil prices are low and all of that, the diaspora community tends to step up and sort of fill in the gap. And so that's very important. And now I'm sure people in diaspora will be like, okay, this is all about Nigeria. What's about me? I will talk about your benefits now. Okay, the first thing would be there's no better time than now to invest in Nigeria because it's so easy. KYC can be done digitally. You can get your NIN in most of the advanced countries. We have NIN registration centers. You can get your BVN from Nigerian banks in the diaspora. You can manage your investments using digital means. And so it's super easy. And for those of us who say, oh, well, I'd rather invest in foreign currency, although to begin with, the Naira has been stable for quite a while. We almost admit to that. But for those who still want to invest in foreign currency, we have several dollar-based investments. Even in first asset management, we have 3 different dollar-based investments, which I will talk about later. And then finally, I will just give a story to explain this, and this is about returns. So I have a friend in the diaspora who is ultra smart in finance. She's both a chartered accountant and a CFA certified individual. And I was talking to her about our money market funds, and I was like, why don't you? The returns are brilliant. And she said, well, my portfolio can give a similar return. And I was like, are you serious? What's in your portfolio? And she said, oh, it's my equity portfolio. And I'm like, that's the difference. You have to take maximum risk and use all of this, your intelligence, to match a portfolio that is a low risk money market investment, low maintenance investment here. And so the returns for you are fantastic. I just stop at that so that I'd let you take more questions. But this is a very important time, both for the country and for our diaspora investors. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne. I think you touched on a few things there that, kind of struck me. First of all, the fact that diaspora, when we put our funds together, the fact that it's larger than the oil revenue is insane. It just shows the power of the diaspora, right? So in terms of the amount of money that you can actually invest in Nigeria and get returns on, it's incredible. And then to the point you made around the returns and the stability of the Naira recently, it just makes sense. For many people that are coming home, some of the challenges they have is that they don't even have a bank account, so transacting locally is difficult. But if you make sure that you have an investment, when you're coming, just buy your ticket, come here, spend a little of it, don't spend all of it, let the money continue to grow. But budget the one that is for this December, so it makes sense. So thank you very much for that. And maybe just to round up that, what do you think are some of the things that affect people's willingness to invest? So what are some of the misconceptions that they might have where they might decide that, okay, I'm a bit, cautious about investing in Nigeria?
Would you like to speak to that?
You can speak to that, please, Anne.
Okay. Okay, so some of the things that make people wary about investing in Nigeria, I have spoken to one of them, which is foreign exchange. Some people are like, look, I don't want to be exposed to any currency risk. And the truth is, like I said, you don't even have to be exposed because you can invest in dollars. But beyond that, there's so much going on in terms of FX reforms in Nigeria, and we're beginning to reap the benefits. The Naira has been very stable, so you don't need to worry about that. Another misconception about investing in Nigeria, and I've heard this quite a lot, is real estate is the only thing I can do. Not to take away from real estate, it's brilliant, it's stable. But the truth is, you can still have challenges with people misappropriating funds you send to handle that. And you might have liquidity constraints because unlike regular money market instruments, mutual funds, you have a lot of liquidity. Most of our funds are open-ended, you can go in and out. And so that is one of the challenges that, or let me say misconceptions that people have about investing in Nigeria that we truly need to address. And not that they think, oh, Nigeria, everybody wants to scam me. And I'm like, we're just learning from the advanced world. Scamming did not begin here.
Honestly, this 419 thing will not leave us. It should leave us soon.
The truth is, there's scamming everywhere. But to be fair, now, to be serious, when you come to invest, like you would do when you're in the diaspora, you don't just put your funds in anything you hear about, right? We have the SEC-regulated institutions, very regulated, CBN-regulated institutions. And the good thing is that all of the institutions are listed on the websites of the regulators. So please, 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 don't give in to scams. Make sure that anywhere you put your funds in, both in Nigeria and even in the diaspora, are regulated, right? So I'd say those three, I'd stop at those three. Those are three misconceptions around real estate, around FX, and around the fact that everybody is trying to scam you. My money has been in Nigeria and I have not been scammed.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. And I'd like Dr. Terab to weigh in on this as well. From your perspective at NiDCOM, what are some of the things that you find discourage people from investing? And if you were going to advise Nigerians in diaspora in terms of thinking about maybe what sector, I'm talking about real estate, for example, or where in Nigeria to sort of invest, how would you sort of direct them? So if you could please help us out with that as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Gbonju. I think, first of all, I would like to come from this perspective. At the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, we see the Nigerian economy more as a human capital economy. And by extension, this makes the diaspora phenomenon an economic factor rather than mere social factor. So with this background, I want everybody to understand that the emphasis that the Commission gives on investment is on how to harness our potentials as Nigerians with diverse backgrounds across the world, and see how that can now become a source of strength for us as a people and as a country. Like I said earlier, or rather in some other conversations, one of the major challenges or the misconceptions is this issue of over-reliance on family and friends in place of due diligence. We find that most of the diasporans feel very comfortable by transacting businesses or doing investments through family and friends. And then more often than not, it becomes a problem. And because due diligence was not done, this becomes an issue afterwards. And it ends up giving a bad kind of a picture of investing in Nigeria. But now we would like everybody to know that there are a lot of institutions and regulatory bodies in the country that we need to take advantage of whenever we intend to venture into any kind of investment in the country. Another misconception is misjudging profitability and returns. More often than not, you get to be told, or you get to hear, or someone tells you that you invest in social sector or in social business, and in a very short time, you'll be making 200-300% return on investment. And then at the end of the day, this doesn't happen. And this now ends up also creating a kind of a bad experience for most members of the diaspora. But because in this same case also, I think expectation management is the key. People need to understand what their real expectations are. And that means getting well educated into any businesses they are going into to understand what are the realities on ground. Sometimes I used to give people an example with probably a taxi business or a ride business or transportation business. You're making all the money, but of course, you're not factoring it many other costs. Depreciation is there, cost of maintenance is there, cost of fuel is there, and many other things that eventually takes away most of your return on investment. And what you come down with as your real return is not actually what you're told. And then, of course, we have issues of underestimating local dynamics and processes because of the differences of where the diaspora are in their host communities and the realities on ground. Sometimes we do expect that things will work exactly as they work in our areas of domain and with here in Nigeria. So there are a lot of factors. There are cultural factors, there are process factors, there are system factors that are not in reality the same. Yep. And I think these are some areas that we believe members of the diaspora need to be well educated in, and these are some of the misconceptions and challenges. Now, looking into with this, you can now see that in reality, investing in Nigeria and the sectors you want to invest in are kind of need to be limited to areas that are properly regulated, that have the infrastructure for due diligence, and then, of course, that has transparent and credible processes that are put in place.
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Terab. You touched on so many things. You know, as you were speaking, one of the things that was coming to my head was, you know, all these people that send money back home and they say, oh, build my house for me, buy me a property, whatever. They come home and they see that the money has run away. It speaks exactly to making sure that, you know, you do your due diligence, not relying or over-relying on family and friends, because it's not all family and friends that's scam. Sorry. And then the Ponzi schemes as well, when you now have the excess returns, people get overexcited about it. And that is like the #1 red flag when they give you one excessive rate to expect. So thank you very much for that. I think, you know, when you round it up and say, you know, regulated investment opportunities, it's a very key part. So I think, you know, leading on from that, I'd like to throw the next question to Ife. And it's really around, you know, when you're in diaspora, you're assessing how much money you're ready to part with. You're assessing your risk tolerance, how comfortable you are with investing in Nigeria. How do you advise that people sort of think about that? How do they ensure that what they're investing with, the capital at risk, is at a comfortable enough level for them to still enjoy good enough returns, but also take the right risk?
Thank you so much, Gbonju. And I think I would, you know, take it from Anne and then Dr. Terab, the way they, you know, in a way introduce misconceptions to us. Anne mentioned scam, real estate, foreign exchange, because I was jotting down. Dr. Terab mentioned over-reliance, no due diligence, and expectation management, sort of, which, you know, boils down to education. So I'll take it from there. Some of the misconceptions that we have been highlighted. Another that would add to it would be transparency. ability to monitor their investments. So a huge chunk of them, of the diasporans, they are worried. Okay, so I put the investment in here. How would I track? Because we engage with most of them on a daily basis. I've had instances of the scam that Han mentioned that, oh, my money will disappear. But again, based on what Dr. Terab has mentioned, regulated institutions that have been in existence, for a very long time. These are people that you need to work with, and not just somebody calling you to say, oh, there is an investment outlet that can give you a 200% and you jump into it, and then later you say you're scammed. One, did you ask questions even when you're investing? Largely, people don't ask questions. They just join the bandwagon, and then they come back to say they've been scammed. So education is very key. Knowing what you're investing into, knowing the policies around that investment, knowing the firm that you are registering with as well. Is a regulated institution, right? For asset managers, if you want to invest, you can just go onto the SEC website and see all capital market operators. That in a way is comfort. Level one, that the firm that I'm dealing with is highly regulated. Just like banks have been regulated by CBN, asset managers have been regulated by Securities and Exchange Commission. That on its own is a way to correct the misconception around being scammed. Another is on return, because I've heard, oh, poor return. And I differ, and I've queried people, that will come together and say, bring your investment reports from diaspora. Let's do a simulation. If we had dropped the same amount in the Nigerian investments, what would the return would have been? And it's usually mind-blowing. They see it and they're like, wow. So in a way, wasting money, because the investment over there will just grow slowly. Again, developed world. And so the returns there aren't as great as what we have in here. So it's about putting the likes for likes and seeing it on a black and white. I like to deal with figures, and I like to see it black and white, and not you just telling me. So we work together, and we've done these from first asset management for some of our clients, right? That have come and will say, bring your diaspora investments, let's look at it and let's do a simulation. And they are blown away to see that, yes, returns there are actually far better than what they have over there. So that is another way of correcting the misconception. I don't want to track. I'm not an investment manager. I'm not a finance person. I just want to invest. I don't know what to invest in. Mutual funds are there and highly regulated. I use the word highly because SECs don't joke at all when it comes to CIS, collective investment schemes, mutual funds, right? A fund manager cannot just act anyhow when it comes to that. And so for mutual funds, right, is well diversified. You have the balanced fund, you have bond fund, you have money market, you have the ones in dollars as well. And so you have varieties, broad range that you can select from. I advise clients to say, why not have some in Naira and have some in dollars as well? Naira to meet liquidity need within the local space. You want to send money to somebody, you're not thinking of exchanging your currency, whether dollar, whether Canadian dollar, whether pounds, immediately, because you have something in Naira that you can easily use. And you're able to do that, still holding on to and you can have the dollar investment as well to hedge against currency. That is another one. But my own is on education, really, and technology, ability to track. So we have the app, we have the web platform as well that can aid you to see your investment real time and see how it's been managed. You monitor it, you see the return on a daily basis to judge whether it is good or bad, to make an informed decision. In terms of education, check SEC's website and ensure that the people you're dealing with are actually regulated and not just someone off the road that's come to, tell you 200% and you jump onto it without asking questions. So these are ways that we can correct some of the misconceptions in terms of what the diasporas do feel about investing in Nigeria.
Thank you very much for that, Ife. I think, you know, as you were speaking, some of the things that were jumping out at me, transparency. You know, transparency translates a lot to risk. What you cannot see, you are afraid of, and your risk tolerance automatically begins to dwindle. You become extremely risk averse. So the fact that we have tools that allow you to view your investments, monitor your investments, should kind of down some of that risk. And then as well, when you talked about, you know, diversify your portfolio. So it's not just about the Naira investments, but the dollar investments as well. Like you said, a lot of people are looking for Naira to send money home and all of that. If you have an investment in Naira, it makes absolute sense that out of that, you're able to deal with your local needs, and then your dollar can take care of your foreign needs. So thank you very much for that response. Not missing the fact that you said a regulated entity, and talked about the strictness around regulation for CIS. And so with that, Gbolahan, you're coming in here because, you know, okay, no problem. I've done some kind of research. I've spoken to people. I'm interested in investing in diaspora. I've heard about all these mutual funds. How do I make sure that the one I'm investing in is a legit one? How am I sure that what I am looking at is actually a good enough one for me? It's not, and I'm not going to give audience to any Ponzi scheme here, but it's not a Ponzi scheme. Some of them from this year that all you Nigerians are putting your money into them and hearing millions and millions of dollars instead of you to put it in something regulated. So, Gbolahan, please help us out. How do we sort of do a checkbox and make sure that what we're investing in is a verified and legitimate investment opportunity?
Yeah, thank you very much, Gbonju, for that question. So I think the starting point would be to reiterate what has been said earlier, the fact that regulation cannot be overemphasized when it comes to investment. And I think to sort of bring it home to our audience from wherever they are listening to us, I think if you're in United States, for instance, before you invest with an entity, you want to make sure that that entity is duly registered with Securities and Exchange Commission in US. If you're in United Kingdom, you also want to carry out your due diligence to ensure that that entity is regulated by Financial Conduct Authority. If you're in Canada, the structure of the regulatory environment is quite different. So it's based on, province, and you'd have a regulatory body that has jurisdiction over activities within its province. So if you're in Ontario, for instance, you'd have to make reference to Ontario Securities Commission to ensure that whatever entity you are dealing with, that entity is duly regulated by the commission. So the same thing also applies to Nigeria. The apex regulator is Securities and Exchange Commission. So the first point of action would be to go to the website of SEC to ensure that that entity, for instance, First Asset Management, you are duly registered and regulated by SEC. So if you go to SEC website today, you'd find First Asset Management as one of the leading asset managers in Nigeria, duly registered by SEC. Secondly, I would also say that I've spoken about superior returns in Nigeria compared to what is obtainable in developed markets. But I think as part of due diligence, investors should also be wary of, I think, unrealistic returns. So we are familiar with this popular saying that if it looks too good to be true, then more often than not, it's not going to be true. So I think there are returns that you hear, and on the surface, 30% in a day, 30% in a week. On the surface, it looks unrealistic. So I think that's one other red flag that should jump at you as an investment that is risky or a fraudulent investment scheme. Another point I would also like to emphasize on is transparency. Again, these are points we've mentioned, but just to expand the scope of transparency, you also need to have a firm understanding as to what that fund manager is invested in. So for all of our investment schemes, you find out that we invest in products that you can actually verify, and you have a clear understanding as to what they're invested in. Take for instance the money market fund that invest in highly liquid money market instruments like treasury bills issued by the government, placement with deposit money banks. If you look at the bond fund, for instance, that also invest in federal government bonds, corporate bonds, if you also make reference to our dollar-based funds, be it the First Asset Dollar Fund that invest across diversified, USD fixed income instruments like Nigeria Eurobonds, corporate Eurobonds, money market instruments in USD. So these are all instruments that you can see. So there is no secrecy. It is very much, transparent for you to have an understanding about the composition of the fund, in terms of what the fund is invested in. So I think those 3 points are very fundamental in ensuring that you don't get into a fraudulent investment scheme. And lastly, I would also say any form of scheme that is designed or structured in such a way that new investors have to come in to sustain the operation of that scheme. Certainly, I think this is a no-brainer. So any scheme designed in such a way that new investors have to come in and it's those investors that would sustain the operation of that scheme. And I think this would also come across as fraudulent investment scheme. So just ticking the boxes across those 4 points will ensure that ultimately you are committed to investing in a sound investment scheme.
Thank you very much for that, Gbolahan. Some key pointers there, and we cannot overemphasize the importance of a regulator, right? So you've mentioned SEC. You can visit the SEC website. I can see a lot of engagement in the chats asking about SEC. Please, Gbolahan was given an example. This one, I can answer the question now. Gbolahan was given an example of if you hear 30%, he did not say we are returning 30%, so please. But again, because it's so outrageous, that is your number one red flag, right? Like 30% return, everybody wants to rush there. And you already know that when everybody is rushing something, that's scam. Don't do it.
30% per week or per month, because we have some.
Yes, no, fair. But again, it's about knowing who is doing, offering the investment opportunity, verifying through the right channels, and then engaging to know that you are doing the right thing. Understand the composition, like Gbolahan was saying. So yes, there are some, but money market was not doing 30%. This year, maybe it has done 20, but not 30. Okay, so let's move on. And now I've been seeing a lot of comments in the chat. And by the way, everybody, thank you so much for your engagement. The chat is on fire, like so many questions and engagements are coming in. Don't forget to use the Q&A box because that's where we'll be taking the questions from. So please, if you drop the question in the chat, just replicate it in the Q&A box so that we can also address it. But some of the questions I've seen and I'd like us to address as part of this conversation is around how we start. So Anne, our head of investment advisory, every day we're going out and trying to convince people this is, this makes sense for you and all of that. I'm in Canada, on this webinar. I'm interested in investing in Nigeria. I have small dollars that I'm ready to send back. What do I do? How do I get started?
Like I said, very easy. So let's go back 2 steps to identify, do you have an NIN? Do you have a BVN? Because for those of you who are just starting your investment, you need to have those. There are a couple of registration points all around the world for NINs. And so if you send in the chats, I can see my colleagues are dropping our numbers and our email addresses. If you just send that to us, we could send you the list so you identify where there is in your location. And then BVN, there are banks, Nigerian banks in the diaspora where you can get that sorted. But I know a lot of you already have that. So moving on to the next stage. Just to make life easier for you, this year we just launched a virtual onboarding link. I think when we tested it, you can fill it out in like 10 minutes. So as soon as you contact us, we'll send you that link. You put it in from your phone. You can put in your passport photo, your utility bill ID, all of that, and then would open your account for you. Easy. No need for physical interaction or all of that. Verifications can be done, at our end. And so once you've done that, we currently have a web portal where you can log in and start to view your transactions on a regular basis. So if you're the sort of person who doesn't want to call anybody to ask for questions, no problem. If you want to see the yields on our returns, we have our fund history on our website on a daily basis. You can see the performance of the funds you're in, of the funds you're interested in. And so, even we'd love to talk to you, by the way, but even if you do not wish to talk to anybody, all the information is available. the process has been made seamless for you. And so, just use our link. If you are, I know some of us would rather write out things. We will email you a form that you can print out and then fill in. So we have options, right? We have options. Whatever works for you, please just contact us. In the chat. You'd see the email address to use, you'd see our website, and we'll give you whatever approach you want to use. We'll work with you to your preference. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Anne. With that in mind, Ife, where would you suggest or recommend for investors to start thinking about in terms of promising areas for investment? We've talked about real estate on this call already. We've talked about the CIS, but is there anywhere that looks sort of promising for our investors in diaspora? And then I'd just like Dr. Terab to get ready, because I'm coming to him, because he's going to now help us to just understand a little bit around the regulatory landscape around some of those sectors that you might bring up from a NiDCOM perspective and in terms of what they're seeing. So Ife, please, what sectors can we sort of look at?
This is what I would say to your question, Gbonju. It's not about the sector to invest in. So real estate is one. And I think most of the people in diaspora, they know real estate. They're comfortable. Like you said, Dr. Terab has mentioned, they send money, just build a house. That is not all about it, right? Why not start small? And I would say this. I met with someone who traveled to Canada, or relocated to Canada, spent 10 years and has been investing in the Canadian mutual funds because, again, she's comfortable because she can see it and she can track. And one of the people that I said, we looked at the investment together and we discovered that, hey, you are losing money. Why not bring it home? Because again, even when you're abroad, you still think about the people at home. And so you still cater for them, you still love them. You're not just out finally and saying bye-bye to Nigeria. You still want to come home. We're talking about dirty December. You don't have to spend your money when you come to dirty December. If you've done investment that has yielded something, you can use out of the return, right? To just, how would I put it, satisfy your cravings or soft life, right? So I would still say you need to start small because you're coming into a terrain that you're not conversant with. So, and in starting small, it will still be mutual funds. Like we've explained, it's in various categories. You have the money market, which speaks to short-term or, easy to cash, liquidity like that. You have the bond fund. You have ALAO that speaks to your ethical beliefs, right? And you have the dollar ones. You have the equity. So starting with mutual fund is what I would advise. Highly regulated. Professionals are the people managing these funds, right? Don't say you know it. And I always give examples. When you're sick, you go to the hospital and you tell the doctor what is wrong with you and the doctor advice. You don't do self-medication. When you need a lawyer, you go and meet with a lawyer and you express yourself to the lawyers and say this, and then they take on the case for you. But many a times we feel we know finance, especially when we're accountants, or we can do it on our own. But the truth is, we are not monitoring markets the way portfolio managers will monitor markets. We are not very close to the market to know what is going on and when to move out or to come in. But that is why we have professionals as well that are managing, they are saddled with the responsibility to manage these portfolios, this fund on behalf of unit holders. And their fiduciary responsibility is just to look out for the best interest of the unit holders at all times. Time to get out, time to come in, they do that. So using an expert, a professional, is the way to go. They would guide to say this and this is what, and based on your risk tolerance, they would advise the kind of fund that you need to invest in. Based on your liquidity need as well, preference, they would advise. So what I would say to any diaspora out there that wants to start investing is start with mutual funds, build it, build that trust. Like we said, they are just coming, they've been scammed or they are not just wary. they're saying poor returns, all the misconceptions we've mentioned there. Let's even correct those misconceptions through mutual funds. Once they are comfortable, they've built their investment to a certain level, they are happy with what they are seeing, I think it would be easier to say, okay, do you want to have a standalone portfolio now? Right. So that's the way I would answer, to say, let them start small first. Let them do money market fund, Naira, let them do dollar funds, so they're still seeing their dollars in case to hedge against currency. They will be happy. Grow it to a certain level. Once it's grown to a level, they're comfortable, happy with the fund manager. Having a conversation and having a standalone portfolio will be, easy peasy. So that's my advice to the people out there.
Thank you, Ife. And the theme continues to reiterate itself in terms of partnering with your fund manager and partnering with a reputable and registered fund manager. It's very important in even understanding how you want to start. And I had hinted Dr. Terab that I was coming to him next because, from your perspective, I mean, we at First Asset Management, the entire purpose of this call is to educate the diaspora, but we're interested in your point of view as well in terms of some of these opportunities and maybe some of the regulatory hurdles that you see affecting some of the people that might want to invest from diaspora. So I'd like to just spend just a couple of minutes just giving us a sense of what some of those hurdles are, if you can quickly ensure that we address those as well. So from your perspective in NiDCOM, what are some of those things that you see that are affecting people from taking part in these opportunities? And we've talked about red flags already on this call, but if there are any that we haven't mentioned that we can address as well, because we really want people to leave this conversation feeling like they're well equipped to start their journey. They should be saying, contact me, also. Sorry, involve me. Let me try and be a little bit. So Dr. Terab, over to you, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I think to start with, Ife hinted on some of the major areas. And, while I was concluding my last statement, I did mention that if you look at the challenges and the misconceptions, it automatically tells you that the investment space narrows. That is relative. In the first place, we all need to understand that we have areas of comparative advantage. If I'm talking to you now, someone in a place like Ogun or someone in the Southwest has opportunities in agriculture because there are now new agriculture enterprises that are coming up that have, some of them have already applied for SEC approvals, and some of them have some sort of regulation with respect to professional bodies, just like if I mentioned that you can go into. Now, you can't do that in some part of the North because of course, obvious security issues and the lack of such infrastructure in these places. So when you're coming also to the areas of real estate, mortgages are there. A lot of your colleagues in the financial sector, and I believe including First Bank and First Asset Management, are already providing diaspora mortgages. So when you are taking up mortgages, it automatically tells you that there are strict rules and regulations you need to follow to ensure that your investment is protected, because it's not your investment alone, it's a joint investment for everyone. So of course, the money market, mutual funds, bonds, and what have you. Of course, the capital market. The capital market has been there for quite a long time. And it's in fact, of recent, despite the fact that it has its up and downs, it appears to be a bit more stable. And then also the foreign exchange regime, naturally, is a natural risk in every investment space. So for those who hedged the dollar against the Naira, may have benefited in the past, but I can assure you some people that hedged Naira against the dollar are now also smiling. So these are the risks inherent. But the most important thing that we emphasize is enough of family and friends, enough of getting involved in unregulated space, and of course, areas that do not encourage due diligence. I appreciate you trust your friend. I appreciate you trust your brother. I appreciate you trust your sister or whoever you have. But the most important thing is that ensure that proper structures are put in place. I mean, some of the professionals, if it could be mentioned, is just an ordinary lawyer. And the average lawyer in Nigeria is registered. And he or she can actually provide services for you specifically to take responsibility of whatever happens at the end of the day. So like the red flag you mentioned, so one of the red flags we have always, most of the time observed is if somebody says, okay, let's go into this business or let me help you invest here. The thing is the person willing to put it into writing, like an MOU and an agreement supervised by a lawyer that whatever happens at the end of the day, he or she is taking responsibility. And the moment such a person refuses, you know automatically that that's a red flag. Of course, higher returns on investment, just like Gbolahan has said, is a red flag. You understand? You know that there are returns that are out of the ordinary. So you don't need to even go there. It's a red flag. I mean, we all know what is the average threshold of returns globally. And of course, even if you come to Africa and sub-Saharan Africa, we all know what are the average thresholds. So why not play around that? So long as it's about 2 times, 3 times more than your own domain where you, I mean, so if you invest in the Nigerian capital market or in the mutual funds, we have dollar mutual funds here. I'm sure probably First Asset Management also has that. And of course, the returns from some of the experiences we have are much higher than what you find abroad. And then also, I think another area that we also need to look at in the area of real estate, the Nigerians and Diaspora Commission itself is in collaboration with First Bank. They've established what we call the Home and Abroad housing platform, where whatever transaction of housing you're doing, the money is escrowed with First Bank until the property is completely delivered to the buyer before the funds are released to the developer. So there are new areas in almost all these fields that are actually coming up to address it. And as we keep emphasizing, it is a whole lot of opportunity for all professionals on both sides of the divide, from the diaspora and from here in Nigeria, to take advantage of this very space. Yes, there is a gap. It's not a perfect situation. We are yet to get there. But let me tell you, as we all know, we are not asking you to come in to take risks beyond the ordinary. But just Absolutely. The fear that is there that people consider as risks, I can assure the diasporans that we have a lot of verifiable, credible, and transparent investment platforms, just like yours, that people can take advantage of and can still go home and sleep. Thank you very much.
Dr. Terab, thank you very much, because you've touched on something. I'm going to go to the Q&A, but you've touched on something, you talked about First Bank, we are First Asset Management. We're a one-stop shop in this group. There's no investment that you want to do. You talk about the equities market. We have an equity fund that has returned over 50% year to date. The equities market itself is, I think, around 46% today. So there are many options. Just get in touch with us, please. Do it with a reputable partner. I'm now going to go to the Q&A. I'd like to thank the panelists for their very engaging conversation and the insights that they provided so far. And the Q&A box is popping off. I hope we can get through as many of these as possible in the time that we have left. Some of the questions have already been answered. So please, if your question is now answered live, it means that we've either already touched on it or we will ensure that we get back to you once the webinar is up. But there's a very important question I can see here. And I'd like to throw this one to Anne, please. The question is from Genevieve. She says, one of the biggest bottlenecks that investors face is transferring funds from overseas into local markets. Nigeria makes it very difficult to do anything FX. How do we manage transferring funds between our overseas dollar accounts to our dollar portfolio?
Okay. The thing is, We have simplified the process because this is what we do on a regular basis. The only way to move money is through a correspondence account. And so when you invest in any of our $3 funds, I just mentioned them now in case I don't get to do so. We have the regular dollar fund, specialized dollar fund, and we have the blended dollar fund. One of them invests in equity, one of them is strictly local Nigerian Euro bonds, etc. And the other invests outside of Nigeria and Euro bonds from other countries. Once you ask to invest in that, we would give you the detailed process, sort of like the correspondence account, our account, all of the details. All of our customers have taken that to their banks and they haven't had problems. If you do, call us from there, do a WhatsApp call, and we'll talk you through. But we have a document that states very clearly the process. Our accounts, the correspondence accounts we use for each of these specific funds, which your bank can then transfer to, and they will transfer the funds to us. And then when we're talking about getting your funds back, when you're opening your account, as long as you filled out all your KYC, you can actually put your offshore accounts to receive your returns and receive your maturities. And so it's seamless. Once you're ready to take out funds and you do a redemption using any of our various channels, it goes directly to your offshore account. So in both directions, coming in, we have correspondence accounts for all of the 3 mutual funds we have. And your banks are already familiar with correspondence banking, and so they could help you to sort that out. And then in getting your funds back to you, just fill your account offshore as the bank account we use here, and we'd pay you. We do that on a daily basis. It's not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we're simplifying the process, so please get in touch. Let's help you out. I'd like to throw the next sort of group of questions to both Ife and Gbolahan. I think they can help out. We have a lot of questions around
So I think, just to quickly chip
dollar
it
products.
so to quickly just chip it in from where hand stopped. So in terms of how our dollar funds have performed this year, we would say that it has been a very strong year in terms of the returns we've delivered. If you look at the first asset dollar fund that Anne mentioned, for instance, year to date currently at about 7.3%. For first asset specialized dollar fund, year to date at north of 8.3%. So if you compare this with what is obtainable in developed markets, just yesterday we had the central bank in United States, US Fed, cutting rates by 25 basis points to a new target band of 3.5 to 3.75%. Today, if you look at the average yield on US 1-year Treasury, that's hovers around about 3.8 to 3.9%. But if you look at the returns on our dollar funds, almost twice, what is obtainable on 1-year US Treasury. So this is just to emphasize the fact that returns obtainable on local, the domestic economy on dollar-based mutual funds are compelling and even much better than what is obtainable in, developed markets. If you also decide to invest in local currency mutual funds, for a money market fund, for instance, the current yield is currently at north of 17%. Though we started this year at about, north of 20%, but due to, again, the stability in the currency you mentioned, that has paved the way for the central bank to be somewhat, accommodative, and we've seen, that's also impacting on local fixed income yields. If you also look at the stock market in Nigeria today, it's been a strong year. Year to date, currently at about 42%. If you look at our smart beta equity fund, it has returned 51%. Balance fund, which also invests in equities, has also returned 41%. So I think if you look at the returns we've delivered across the spectrum of investment products that we offer, returns have been very strong. And again, if you make reference to what is obtainable in those developed markets, you would see that, there's room for you to optimize your investable fund by tapping into these collective investment schemes that we offer at First Asset Management.
Thank you, Gbolahan. Just before you drop on that, you talked about commissions. Can you just speak a little bit more to what that entails?
So, you said commission?
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yes, I said in your response, you touched on commissions. So can you just speak a little bit more on that, please?
So in terms of commissions, are you talking about the returns to unit
No,
holders or
security.
investors?
Maybe it will still be Security and Exchange Commission. Maybe
Oh,
yes.
okay. Oh, okay. Okay. So all of these funds I've mentioned are duly regulated by SEC. In fact, we also have physical inspection from SEC who would come into our physical office to vet our books, vet investment procedures, ensuring that all of these funds are investing in the assets that they are permitted to invest in. So Ife touched earlier on, the strict regulatory environment, and this is just to also mention the fact that SEC do not just supervise us from the comfort of their headquarters in Abuja. They come to our physical office here to inspect our books to ensure that, yes, we are indeed investing in line with the approved guidelines from SEC itself. So the regulatory framework is
Thank
very
you.
strong.
Thank you very much, Gbolahan. We have a question here that is a very interesting one, and it relates to the some of the points that Doctor raised. It says, in case one invests without following due diligence, maybe through a family member, is there any regulation in place to recover their funds back?
Thank you very much
So can you
for
take
that question, Gbonju. One of the first things we did that's with a view to encourage diaspora investment is to set up a desk with the EFCC. And that was done about 4 years ago. And so far, that desk has been able to tremendously achieve a lot by recovering a lot of funds that were actually either misappropriated or were not used at all or even got lost in the process. So that is a very good question. And I believe once issues of deep trust goes in any case, a fraud is a fraud. If you're being told something else and then something else gets to happen, it means that's not the trust that was put in place. That was not the agreed purpose. So you have every right to seek redress. And that EFCC Dex office is specifically made for diaspora investment, so that if you have issues, they are already very familiar with the terrain. They know how to get in touch with the parties involved. And in most cases, they end up getting recoveries. But why do we have to wait till we get into problems to look for solutions? The easier way, because as we speak now, there is a trooping of diaspora investments. So the best thing is to channel these investments through the right channels to ensure that proper platforms and due diligence and regulatory systems are complied with, so that we don't have to end up getting to that. That's the point we are trying to avoid, because it sends back negative signals and people get to be scared instead of people coming in to enjoy the opportunities that are there.
Thank you very much, Doctor. It's comforting to know that there are steps in place to help us out if we do fall prey to, dubious investment schemes. So we commend the Commission for their efforts, NiDCOM in partnership with the EFCC on that. We have a lot of questions around investing in other currencies. If I'd like to speak to this, a lot of people are asking, we have people from Canada, people from the Eurozone, people from the UK, who said we'd be talking about dollars and dollars and dollars and dollars. And so they would really like to understand what other opportunities exist if they don't earn in dollars. How do we help our clients, those clients, to invest with us?
Okay, thanks, Gbonju. Before I answer that, right, I don't want us to, so it doesn't look as if we are confusing our audience. And that was what I was trying to explain the other time when you said 30%, because Gbolahan has mentioned that smart beta returned 52. balance fund has returned 40, and we'll
Okay, it's
it's
possible, but through a regulated body.
You know, so for those ones, it's 30% per week or per month. These ones that Gbolahan has mentioned, and the fact is that you can, see it for yourself, is year to date. So from start of January till date, that is what the fund has returned, compared to someone promising you 30 days, 30% return, right? So just to correct that, so that some people are saying, but you said 30% is high, but you've done 52, should I be wary? So to correct that. So to your question around currency, right? Yes, what we have at the moment is USD, but we have partners. We have international partners that we deal with, right? Not to mention names here, but we have loads in Europe, in the UK, in Canada, in the US, but we have quite a lot in Europe, right? And so if you have such, please come. We have partners that we would then, refer you to, or will manage it for you using those partners as well. So it's nothing to worry about to say, oh, must I convert to USD at all times? If you do not want to convert to USDs, we use those partners outside of Nigeria to get what you want for you. So it's not a problem at all. To some Nigerians who may have Naira and thinking, how do I then convert to USD? I think it's pretty much easy now with the way the CBN has relaxed certain rules around FX. So with your Naira, you can have access. Some banks will tell you 4,000 in a quarter. Some will tell you 6,000. Some will tell you 10,000 in a quarter, depending on the banks you're dealing with. But at least with your Naira, you can get dollars off, and you can invest first asset bond dollar fund. Sorry, you can invest as little as $100 as a minimum entry. The specialized and the blended fund, the first asset blended fund and the first asset specialized dollar funds are the ones with 10,000 entry level. So really, with $100, sorry, you can come into those dollar funds. I hope I've answered you, Gbonju.
You have $100, period. That's it. To
It's
enter
not
the dollar fund.
convert into Naira.
Please. But it's possible. We're talking about
It
people
is
in diaspora.
possible. Yeah,
So,
people
so
in diaspora.
it's quite an affordable entry point on the dollar fund. Ifeoluwa, you're still here. We also have quite a number of questions around taxes. Somebody's asking if they have to report their investments to the IRS in the US. Some people are asking about withholding tax. So can you just give us I know we've had a webinar on taxes before. I think that was 3.0. So we can go back and revisit 3.0. But if you could just give us a high-level summary in terms of taxes and how we can expect that to reflect in our investments.
So again, because I'm not a tax consultant, we have to be careful so we don't misguide people. And so for me, and that again dwells on education. What are the tax implications when you invest at home here in Nigeria compared to where you are? So you need to understand the tax laws and everything depending on your residency, right? What and what is allowed. Some country that we have relationship with as a country, you may not have double taxation. Some countries that do not sign certain treaties, you may have double taxation. So we just want to be clear. So I think I may be wrong, but not to go ahead of myself. There should be another webinar on tax, explaining it properly to people, where we'll bring in consultants to demystify some of these issues for us. I will leave it at that so that, they don't quote. I'm not, so
thank you. There were many questions on it. So I didn't want it to be that we didn't address it. And I'm conscious of our time. But, one of the things I think is important for us to also understand from this webinar is the importance of NiDCOM as well in sort of helping diasporans to get involved in Nigeria. So, Dr. Terab, could you please help us out? What is NiDCOM about? Can you just speak very briefly, because we're running out of time, on how people can also contact NiDCOM in terms of investing in Nigeria, please?
Okay, I think this is a very more straightforward question. NiDCOM is an establishment of government and is being established by an act of the National Assembly. It was created in 2017 by an act of the National Assembly, but started operations in 2019. Basically, it is there to engage with Nigerians living abroad. First and foremost, to give them a sense of belonging. Second of all, to interact with them to understand how they can relate and get the attention of Nigerians abroad on how they can jointly develop the country. Like I started earlier and I said, we believe the Nigerian economy is not an oil economy. It's not a resource economy. It's a human capital economy. It's people that is the major resource of Nigeria. And as such, we believe these people who are living outside the country are a critical component for the development of Nigeria. We call them the third eye, because in everything you're doing, if those of you within remain within, and you can get someone from outside to tell you this is how it looks. I mean, sometimes it's like you're reversing a car. Those of you inside the car can't really look at where you're reversing, but someone outside can actually guide you. And to us, that is what the diaspora is. And we believe that relating with the diaspora is going to have a great impact on developing the nation and planning on how we can make this country great. A little misconception I would like to correct very quickly. We have remittances. Remittances are P2P. It's not money that is sent to government of Nigeria. That needs to be clearly understood. You and I who are living abroad will wish to send money to my children, to my cousin, to my brother and sister, or to my school, to my community. These are remittances. However, they have great impact on affecting the economy of Nigeria positively, because without these remittances, it also means there are not going to be a lot of jobs. It means a lot of drugs cannot be bought. It means a lot of patients will not be treated in hospitals. And it also means a lot of children can't go to school because remittances pay a lot of school fees, medical bills, and what have you. So, but the most important thing here is that, are we enough with just the $20 to $25 billion for the last 10 years? No. We believe Nigeria has the capacity to improve remittances from its current 25 billion state to 50 billion and to 100 billion annually. And the statistics are out there. And like everyone said, from Anne to Ifeoluwa to Gbolahan and everybody, the returns in Nigeria are really encouraging. Maybe we need to really look at it from a professional perspective and keep the sentiment aside. You'll get to realize that in almost every sector, that can actually be replicated. But the most important thing is that let us be calm. Let us not get out of ourselves and then try to rush after profits that are not realistic. Let us follow due processes. Let us follow due diligence, and let's follow regulated patterns, just like what First Asset Management is doing and your other colleagues in the industry, so that at the end of the day, we are going to build real and genuine wealth. At the end of the day, we believe most Nigerians love Nigeria so much that if it is as good as they want to, they will always want to be here. At least 30 December is here. Now we are seeing the return influx of Nigerians just to come back home and party and enjoy themselves and celebrate with family and friends. So I believe that, you see, this gives you more reason to want to invest in Nigeria. And in any case, the average investment mindset knows that diversification is key in your investment portfolio. So diversification is not only about the product. It's not only about the sectors you invest in. It is also about territory. Because we can all recall, during the 2008-2009 financial crisis, Nigeria was largely immune to the global financial crisis, and people that invested in Nigeria and Nigerian capital market actually made some returns. Likewise, during the COVID period, you could see that there is immunity across certain jurisdictions. And so it is just common sense that wherever you are, while you invest there, try also to hedge, or rather to diversify your investment portfolio to other sectors. And where best than a place that you can run to immediately and nobody asks questions how you come in. And that's where we
Absolutely.
investing.
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Terab. With that, we are out of time, but I want to thank you all for your engagement with us today. There were so many questions, we can't answer them all. I tried to group as many of them together so that we could get to them, but what we'll do, just like my colleagues have been so fantastic in responding to you in the chat, we'll make sure that we pull out your questions and get responses across to you where possible. As long as you share your details with us, we'll be able to do that. We encourage you to continue to engage with us, drop your comments, drop your feedback, drop your questions on our social media. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, we're on X, we're on Facebook. Just Google First Asset Management. It will take you to our website as well. And you can engage with us on all of those platforms. You can also email us at talk-to-us@first-assetmanagement.com with any of your questions. We know that a lot of you already are customers. You're asking us about how to move from one product to another. You're asking us about how to get on the app. You're asking us about how to get on the portal. You're asking us a lot of fantastic questions, and we'll get to all of them and make sure that, if possible, we'll just post an FAQ and you can get answers to your question there. But I want to thank you all for your engagement today. It has been an absolute pleasure to host you this afternoon. I want to thank my panelists, and Ife, Gbolahan, Dr. Terab, our guest from NiDCOM. You have been excellent. You are fantastic. And in fact, if I was going to just summarize what we've learned today, first of all, and it's great that we had Dr. Terab because we understand that a lot of you are still using friends and family. Sometimes it's not about friends and family. It's really about engaging with a regulated, certified partner. So contact us today. Let us be that partner for you. Nigeria is a lot more stable, or has been a lot more stable this year in terms of currency, in terms of the equities market. So there are opportunities. You should come in. You should have a conversation with us. Let us explore your portfolio. Like Beth said, we can look at what your portfolio abroad is returning for you and compare that to what's possible in Nigeria. We can also get a rate of FX transfer risk for you, right? So if you're investing in Nigeria, just do your Naira investment. Let it take care of your debt to December. Let's take care of your friends and family back home. Let's take care of your mortgage back home, building your house. So there's a lot of opportunities in that regard. And transparency, please. When you're exploring your portfolio and you're looking at your risk tolerance, it is important for you to, as you engage with a regulated First Asset Management fund manager, First Asset Management, as you engage with us, we'll be able to provide transparency on the type of products, on your investment, and track your investments for you as well. So with that, I think it's, that sort of summarizes. Oh, and the Ponzi schemes, please. Like Ife said, it is possible to get 50% return year to date, not in a week. So let's be guided in how we approach these investment opportunities. This is an opportunity for us to get educated. We're targeting 100 million smart investors. So thank you for being a part of this webinar today. We look forward to hosting you in our 6th webinar, which we will share details on our social media in due time. My name is Gbonju Fakeye. I've been your host today. It's been a pleasure. I would like my panelists to just give a wave and say bye-bye this afternoon. So maybe if I was going to allow them to give one line, just one line, what would be your key takeaway for our audience today? So let me start with Dr. Terab. Just one statement. What would you want people to take away from this webinar today?
I think diversify your portfolio. Choose Nigeria as one of your investment destinations.
Choose Nigeria to diversify your portfolio. Thank you so much, Dr. Terab. Anne?
One sentence: Nigeria is getting ready for you in terms of regulation digitally. And so please, and then our returns as well. So please consider us. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Ife, Anne cheated a little bit too. One sentence.
So diaspora investing is not about sending money home. It's about building sustainable wealth, using the right tools, technology, and education. Thank you.
Fantastic. I like that. I really like that. Thank you, Ife. And Gbolahan.
Yeah, for me, I would
One
say
sentence.
involve
Yes.
first asset management in your financial journey. You can be rest assured will take you to your destination.
Fantastic. Thank you. So come on this ride with us. It's going to be great. The recording will be available. Thank you all very much with that. I'm calling it a day on this webinar, but we look forward to entertaining you on the next one. Look out for it on our social media. Thank you and bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.